Hey, what up guys? Today we're back with a new review and today it's gonna be Taliyah versus Jace. We saw Faker pop off on this champion last week and right now we will see if he can do it again. So Taliyah versus Jace, it's a very interesting matchup. I've played it from the Jace side especially a few times and I can say that it's actually quite even. Taliyah slightly outranges, but from a certain point Jace can start to poke. Taliyah's E kinda cancels Jace's melee form, but if he gets into melee form range, Taliyah is pretty screwed. So it's a pretty fun matchup. And one of the things that I definitely want to touch about is Jace's top side is extremely strong. The 2v2 in the early game is basically unmatchable. So because these guys got 6 abilities, 3, and with the ultimate abilities that they have unlocked pre-6, these guys are very strong compared to Lee and Taliyah, which is definitely not a weak combination. But in the 2v2, they will not win it early when it's a fair fight. So we gotta be very careful with early game skirmishes, but that's fine since we skill extremely well. Enemy team has basically no way to deal with the Rammes. We also got the Xayah, Rakan scaling, Taliyah. So we should be in a good spot. Let's take a look at the lane right here. We see that Faker is just slowly building a wave into the Jace. I think that's smart. Jace actually opted in for cleanse. I think it's kind of suboptimal to go cleanse in this matchup. I see why, because of the Rammes, but I think you lose too much pressure in the lane if you opt in for the cleanse, and also in the side lane, that is. So we see Faker build a slow push into this Jace, and that's pretty smart because Jace gets a bit pressured when you slow build into him. His under tower CSing isn't the best. He uses a lot of mana that way as well, and you should actually compare Jace to a bit of a control mage, a weak control mage early. That's also the playstyle that he has. So let's take a look at what happens here before Faker goes for the ward. So Faker is pushing right here. He sees a play happening on bot and he decides to hover. And that kind of bites him in the ass because what happens now is that the Jace seems to be getting level 4 first here over Faker. And Faker actually missed a minion. And because he missed that minion, he's now under heavy pressure because Jace can just walk up. And Nidalee also comes to gank. So I think Faker kind of trolled by hovering bot lane right here. Personally, with a wave state like this, right? If we look at this wave state right here. If we go for a bot roam, we can do that, of course, but that means that we sacrifice our entire lane. Because Jace can either hold it, he can either hard shove it if we commit, and we're just gonna lose like 1.5, maybe even 2 waves. And that's a lot of waves. I'm not sure if a potential kill, because it's always still potential, is worth it. So yeah, that puts us in a very awkward position in the lane. The lucky thing that we have is that we do have TP, and Jace doesn't have TP, so maybe we can get a better reset off that actually saves our tempo. So we decide to stay, which is alright. Lise is in the area, we cannot really get dove. We also got the DMAT, we still got teleport, and we just make sure that we don't miss any of this experience. Faker decides to shove this next cannon wave by dematting the cannon minion, which I think was pretty smart, because what you then can do, right, is if we demat this cannon minion, we can then hard shove the other minions right here, if we use our abilities on the wave, and we can then force ourselves onto a good reset with teleporting back. But what I then see him do is, he uses abilities onto Jace, he uses W and the Q, which he both kind of misses. And now he's a bit slower onto this wave. So I'm not sure if he can take the reset right now without missing a minion. Let's take a look at what happens. He TP's back. It seems that Jace hard shoved, so that does mean that we can get this wave in. But it also means that Jace will not lose that much when it comes to the next wave. He actually gets a pretty free reset here with his non-teleport summoner. So early lane, somewhat suboptimal. Now let's take a look at this wave state, right? When you have the tempo advantage like this, because we use teleport, we always gotta ask ourselves a question on this wave state. We gotta ask ourselves the question, okay, do we want to slow build? Or do we want to hard push? And why? So what we can see is that Faker opts in for a hard push. Let's take a look at why he does that. We can see on the map, right? If we look at the minimap, especially when it comes to red vision, we got vision in bot side river. But we also see enemy bot lane is extremely far up in the lane. So if we hard shove right now, we instantly can get the tempo, and we can instantly use that tempo to shift that tempo towards bot lane. If we slow build, we can do the exact same, but we have to then do it in 1 or 2 more waves. So it's not right now, but it's rather in 40 seconds to 30 seconds to a minute. So Faker deciding to hard shove this and probably looking bot lane is pretty solid. So let's take a look what he does here. He hard shoves the waves. He hovers bot. Enemy bot lane just respects. Unfortunate, at least we zone him off the tower. So we put a little bit of pressure right there. That's completely fine. So once again, he decides to hard shove this wave. It's a cannon wave that he decides to hard shove here. Let's see what he does with this tempo once again. So he spotted this Lee Sin on the bot side. And it seems like he wants to make a play together with his Lee Sin. Pretty crazy ult here. Yeah, that was actually really well played. So let's rewind this. So he spots the reason why he hard shoves this wave is probably because he spots the Lee Sin into his own bot side. So we know that he can make a very forced play onto the bot lane. So he hard shoves the wave, does it very fast, and actually looks for the angle together with Lee Sin. And I would personally be very hesitant to make something like this happen, because it's still we shove the cannon wave. So the next wave is going to be a non-cannon wave, so Jace gets us in very quickly. So if this fails, we go down even more. So it's a pretty dangerous play, pretty big testosterone play here from Faker. But it really works out for some reason, because both their enemy bot lane does not respect the Taliyah ult, doesn't flash it, and they lose all summoners and get 2 kills. So it was actually really well played by Faker, and great that he recognized he was able to do this. And this is extremely good for the game set here on bot lane, because bot lane was getting destroyed. So we come back from the roam, we miss 1.5 waves, and we give Jace a plate. If we do it at this time, right, and we give Jace a plate at this time, it isn't too bad. But if he comes back with the Dirk and he gets a bit more levels, Jace will take your tower in seconds. It's really fast. So against Jace and other hard pushing champions, we always gotta ask ourselves the question: okay, is it worth to roam? And especially, when is the timer that we shoot and can roam? Because if the roam fails and we lose waves and our tower, we're basically also losing our own lane on the back end, and that makes it really hard. So let's take a look what happens here. We got a little skirmish. Jace uses the cleanse pretty effectively, bumps him into the Nidalee. Okay. Pretty well played by the Jace. But it does seem like they just had the man advantage because of the support and the Lee Sin coming in. So yeah, pretty neutral play actually. It's definitely really good for Faker's team because of the man advantage, but I don't think necessarily any team played it bad. I just think that the Jace maybe disrespected a little bit. But look at the bot plays that they get. That's really crazy actually. So I think it evened out a little bit in the end. Now let's take a look. What would my mindset be if I was the Taliyah at this spot in the game? And I can also talk about what would my mindset be if I was the Jace in the game. What do we like on both sides of the matchup here? So if I would be Taliyah right here, what I would do is I would try to avoid the lane as much as possible right now. I would try to make sure that to either build waves or hard shove waves, depending on the cooldowns of the Jace and understanding the threat of the enemies. And I would then try to control our bot side and shove a move, preferably. If I would be Jace, I would want to keep this Taliyah in lane as much as possible. How would I accomplish this as being Jace? Is I would try to heavy trade with the Taliyah. I would try to land as many poke abilities that I can onto her. make sure that I don't allow her to hard shove the wave, or yeah, slow build is a bit harder to deny, but if she really wants to hard shove the wave, especially this one, she uses his W, she uses her E like this, right? This is the time, if he would be in lane, to like go ham onto the Taliyah and see if you can find an angle to actually keep her in lane. Because Taliyah actually has very low base health at this point in the game, and that means that Jace can actually, if he trades with her, really pressure her. So let's see what happens here actually. So I think Faker just disrespects the damage of the Renekton. And that's something what we already see here, right? Taliyah's base health, it's hella low. And he just dies. So that's a pretty bad death. Now we also give Jace a lot of tempo to do what he wants. But it seems like our jungler is kind of carrying bot lane. So yeah, pretty even trade on bot lane again. This is a pretty fun game. And now we have the Renekton from top to bot lane roam. Very dangerous, of course. So Renekton is looking to become a big problem. Thank God we got a lot of answers to deal with him actually. So it should be fine. And as we can see, right, we just leave the lane and Jace just takes 2 plates, and it's really rough to deal with. Like it's so much gold that these players give nowadays that if we die like that or we move, we gotta be super careful. Okay, Faker fishes for a WE. He's got to be a bit careful right now because his main ability, his main self-peel ability being his E is down right now. That means that Jace can always look for a little engage onto him. So we shove the wave. We get some vision around bot side. Like this is always step 1, guys. When we want to shove and move, what we do is we shove with a little bit of tempo. We ward the river and possibly even enemy bot side a little bit. We try to get control around that place, and with that we can start to shove and move eventually. So Lee Sin actually comes mid, make sure that we can actually shove this wave, and let's see if we can make a play with this priority. All right, it's looking pretty dangerous here. And we lose the Lee Sin's life. Alright, so let's rewind this play here a little bit. So what we can see is actually the push with Lee Sin was completely fine. I think the hover towards bot lane was also completely fine. But Jace can shove the wave extremely fast as well. And the thing that we kind of missed here was the threat of the enemy support. So if we look closely onto the map right now, we could have seen that enemy support was not on the lane. And therefore that makes it a very dangerous invade right here. Because as we can see, like the Lulu being here kind of messed it up. And that's something that both of these players could have recognized and should have recognized in setting, but everyone makes little mistakes like this and it can just happen. And this kind of messes Faker up because luckily it's a cannon wave, but still he's in a pretty awkward position. Luckily dodges out on the Jace ability. Now Jace has to respect. He can just easily grab the wave, but he loses 2 minions once again. And like, losing 2 minions to or there doesn't really matter, right? But it starts racking up, and that's when it really becomes problematic. Because 2 minions, if you do it 3 times, then we're talking about a wave. And if we're doing that 3 times, we're talking about 80% of a level. So it really racks up slowly. So Faker gets a nice little first strike proc. He can do this because he gets the hover from the Rakan. Yeah. That's kind of unfortunate. Let's rewind it real quick. I don't think it was Faker's intention to dive here. I think it just kind of happened. A bit of a miscommunication between Sub and Faker. Pretty unlucky because Jace gets really strong to this. Like a solo kill is very problematic. So Faker's trying to be creative here. He gets ganked from all angles once again and he escapes through top side. So pretty rough situation. He loses yet another wave. His base gets cancelled. He does get the kill on top lane, thank God. And he takes a bit of this XP right here. Otherwise, he would have been in a massive, massive deficit here. But right now, it kind of saved the situation. So let's take a look at what items he can build. He gets Lost Chapter, he gets Blasting 1, and he decides to roam from mid lane. So the lane assignments swap up. That means that the bot lanes go mid lane, they got the tower, and the mid laners go to the side lane. And in this case, Faker goes bot, he's going to match the Jace. Jace is pushing pretty heavily, of course. He spotted that the play on mid was over. So after hovering mid real slightly, he moves to bot lane right here, which is good. So what do we want to do right now as Taliyah? We're going to win the game from this point onwards. It's actually, we're 3k behind, but with the team composition that we both have, we should be in an A-OK position. It's not optimal. The enemies can definitely win, but I'd say it's like a 50-50 from this point onwards. So it's very important that we play it out correctly from this point onward. And the way we'd like to do this is we'd like to have grouped fights. We want to have these team fights where the enemies are running into us. We got the Xayah, we got the Taliyah, we got the Rammus. So if we get a good angle, we are just going to wipe all of these guys, and it's pretty hard for them to do something about it. The problem is that the enemy team kinda has poke. They got a lot of range in these 3 characters right here. So if we're just gonna siege an ARAM on mid, there's not gonna happen a whole lot, and it's actually gonna be in a disadvantage for us. But if we are actually forcing them to come to an objective whilst we are there at the area first, then we should be in a good position. Another thing that we can do is actually start shove and moving. Our team also has some engage tools. So if we shove and move like this, right, we shove out side lane, we hover on mid, we see if we can make a man advantage play, then we should also be in a good position. So let's take a look here. It seems like we're collapsing onto Jace on the side lane. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Okay, so I actually like this idea a lot, attacking Jace on the side lane. Like, Jace is a champion that wants to be really efficient. He wants to be getting a lot of minion waves, push them really fast. So he usually greeds for minion waves, and that's also what we see this Jace do. That's what I do when playing Jace, right? So I like that they attack the Jace here on the side lane. It seems like they just got outplayed here. Pretty crack play here by the Jace. Dodges out on the Taliyah W into the Nidalee, and they just die. Kind of well played to the Jace. I don't mind their attempt, but the Jace just outplayed them. Pretty crazy actually. So Jace misses the QE. He's walking up very aggressively. I didn't know that was the thing, that you can cleanse in the animation of your dash against the Taliyah, and actually cleanse yourself of the CC effect while still getting the dash off. That's a pretty interesting thing to learn. I didn't know that was a thing. Now I understand why he took cleanse. I thought it was cleanse for the Rammus or in the team fights, but this actually makes a lot of sense. Alright, so Jace greets for another wave. We take the reset because we're low. We take a massive blow from the Jace QE, but we should be able to get him. Damn. That's rough. So let's see how we could have gotten him. Could we have gotten him by maybe walking next to the wall a bit longer? Possibly. We only needed 1 proc, but it's really hard to say. It's for sure extremely annoying that we don't get the kill right here. Jace is kind of smurfing it, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, it's looking a bit more rough because we're losing way more gold, and we're losing a lot of tempo as well. A lot of summoners in the meantime as well. We get our reset off. We're definitely opting in for the Seraph's Embrace right now. I really like the combination of Ludens with Lucidity Boots. I think Lucidity Boots on Taliyah, just having your E back up all the time in skirmishes is really, really good. I know there's a lot of full AP with Source shoes Taliyah plays as well. Personally not my style, but that also works. It's just a different style of Taliyah. So we go to the other side lane right now because the objective is on top side. We want to be on the strong side. Rammes wants to be on the weak side. Can we contest the objective? Can we push up far, shove a move? Probably not. We gotta be very creative with how we're gonna get our lead back here. So it does seem like we pushed up too far here. We simply pushed up too far. We greeted for one more wave, which is probably something I would have done as well. Like when I'm behind, I usually greet for a few waves to try to get back into the game that way and create a tempo advantage. But it kind of backfires right here, and we die. That's a lot of gold to the enemies once again. We lose a lot of pressure, and you could even say it's end of review right here. But I still want to see a few team fights, so let's take a look at a few more of these team fights here. So our team gets railed in the skirmish on top as well. It's looking very grim in this game. It's looking very, very grim. It does seem like we can get a bit of control of the area here. But our Rammes isn't there. No, we still cannot get control, sadly. Nice attempt by Faker. Okay, actually very unbelievably close fight. It's unbelievable that we win this. Let's rewind this. So, initially, I love plays like these when you're playing Taliyah, when you're ahead, when you're behind, using the Fog of War to guarantee a W, because it's very hard to react to a W like this, and get the stun. It's extremely good, extremely bursty, extremely deadly. In these kind of places especially. So I think this is a genius play from the Faker. Get the stun, he cleanses it, therefore dodges out on the Rakan. Let's see how they win this fight. Let's break this down slowly. I wanna play this down on slower speed. So Faker's missing his Q. He's missing his E. He's missing a lot of his Qs here as well. Misses another Q. Hits the Renekton for a little bit. Hits the E. Hits another Q. And hits this Q. So the start of this fight was absolutely atrocious. We rushed our abilities, we got a bit overwhelmed, and we didn't use them accordingly. So it seems that the Xayah just like Giga carried this fight actually. Yep, it seems like the Xayah just Giga carried it. And Faker cleans up, which is nice. They lost the dragon though, so we have to fight for this next dragon. So I'm really curious how this next dragon is going to look. That's going to be the game deciding factor here. Let's skip forward to that. Okay, Rakan is dead, so they gotta struggle getting the area. But the enemies start Nash. This can be good for us. This can be good for us. Okay. So, oh, Lee Sin also died. How did Lee Sin die? Okay, so Lee Sin also died, Rakan died. So we're in a 3 versus 5 scenario and they're on Nash and we have no jungler. So I think in that case, it's sadly maybe should have given it. It's really rough, but it seems like we couldn't do much here. Let's see if we also lose the dragon for this. We also lose the dragon. So in this case, I would call it end of review. Yeah, so the main takeaways from this vault actually was, I think there was a few good moments in the early lane, but I think Faker kind of gave up too much. he gave up too much and he wasn't precise enough with his roams, and that led to Jace actually getting very ahead in the individual 1v1, even though he's 2 levels down for some reason right now. I don't know how that happened, but like that's kind of crazy actually. I think he might have missed too many waves or something like that. But when we spotted it before, right, when the Jace was beating up the Taliyah on the side lane, very hard to match that. Also, we didn't command our jungler well enough. We didn't assess enemy threat. We had a great roam on level 6 towards bot lane, which is definitely something that we could possibly get a lot of value for in future games. But in general, I'd say we gave up too much on mid lane, and we weren't precise enough with our roams, with our tempo usage, which led us to eventually fall behind. And especially like with this jungle matchup, right? It's very snowballing jungle matchup. We should just be a bit more defensively, especially when we skill. Because as we saw, even when we were super far behind, and we missed every single one of our abilities, we still won this fight here in this choke point in the jungle. So definitely a few good learnings. And also one thing, cleanse works against Taliyah if we have dashes, guys. It's a thing apparently. I didn't know it. So thank you all for watching. We got new videos coming up this week, and I would like to once again hear your suggestions about what champions you guys want to see. I got a lot of Taliyah requests for today, so the Taliyah was the first one I did. So let me know what you guys want to see. I thank you all for watching, and I see you guys real soon. Bye bye.